We only have 12 years. 12 years to reverse the effects of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. And unfortunately, small innovations like reusable straws and economically unfeasible ideas like electric cars are not going to solve the problem. Unfortunately, even if we turned off the taps of CO2 today, that wouldn't solve the long-term issue. What we need is a plan that's going to take the bad carbon dioxide that we've released into the environment and turn it into something amazing. And that's where you come in. Thankfully, you've spent the last 10 years developing innovative technology that is going to save our environment and change the way that we think about fuel. My name is Jacqueline, and I am joined alongside my friends Genevieve and Catherine, and we are Crunch Consulting. To walk you through what we're going to be talking about today, one of the main things we wanted to tackle was how is your company going to commercialize? And breaking that down into 3 core issues, the first one being the lack of finance, second one being the lack of awareness, and the third one being barriers in adoption of this kind of technology. Going forward, we have identified that we need a marketing plan that is going to change the way that we think about the environment. And our plan today is going to change how we think about the way that we're going to use fuel, and it's going to change the way consumers think about what they're going to put in their car. We imagine a system where you can choose low carbon fuel to fuel the vehicle that's going to get you from point A to point B. And lastly, that goes into the overall impact that we're going to have on the industry. And basically, our goal is to change the way that we tackle the low carbon fuels industry and then other industries that are also using carbon. So going forward, one of the main issues that we identified was the lack of finances. Currently, 80% of your finance is debt. So we're going to go through using an equity perspective, going for the additional 20%. So targeting investors, specifically people that are younger, looking towards that kind of investment is going to be key. Additionally, going forward, the external and familiarity, going into young people that are interested in the environment, getting the word out there. As of right now, CE has kept their doors closed for the last 10 years as they've been developing this product, and it's time to show the public everything that you've been doing. And then lastly, the barriers to adoption. The oil and gas industry is a major conglomerate in the global economy today. Getting them to change the way that they view fuel is going to be a challenge, but I think we're up for it. Going forward, we identified 3 markets that you guys can enter. 1 being the negative emissions, 2 being the enhanced oil recovery, and the third one being the negative emissions and low carbon fuel market. So going forward, we identified the low carbon fuel market is the best for you guys to enter. So the goal for that one is to turn the fuel that you're creating from your jet plant and your air fuels into something that could be used for transportation, whether that's through airplanes, trucks, the average consumer, and then also looking at parallel industries or other industries that also use carbon. So I'm going to be passing it off to Catherine to talk about market and trends.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So to talk about the current market and what it's looking like right now, companies are aiming towards becoming more environmentally sustainable and adopting these sustainability practices through either the materials that they're using for their products or their fuel alternatives to operate as well. And this growing demand for averting climate change is a reason for economic environmental sustainability for these companies. So this growing demand is a huge issue. That is why the direct air capture technology that carbon engineering is creating today is a necessity and is a technology that needs to be scaled to a larger scale. So the trends and how the market is looking like in the future is there is currently a carbon dioxide product-based sector that is growing. Carbon dioxide will soon be a commodity that can be manufactured into other products, such as concrete, such as greenhouse gases, boosting plant growth, things like that. Carbon dioxide can be commercialized as a commodity within the next few years. There are also long-term economic benefits that go along with the growing market because the market value is currently increasing as this technology is a necessity. Climate change is something that people need to start combating. The market value will only continue to grow, and so this will in turn increase market entry, and there will be a growth in the competitors. And so this technology is a necessity and will be a leading technology in terms of removing carbon from the air. So our main takeaway is that carbon engineering should be marketing the potential return on investment and the long-term benefits to businesses. So here we have an investor profile that we've created. This is our ideal investor that we believe carbon engineering should be targeting. So meet John Saturn. John Saturn is a 45-year-old American CEO and thought leader in the technological industry. He values on a personal level eco-friendliness and sustainability, but on more of a managerial and corporate level, he values return on investments as well as long-term solutions with long life cycles. So why would he invest in carbon engineering? Technical industries are normally at the forefront of emerging technologies. Technological industries are the catalyst for change. They create technologies in order to make the world better, in order to make society more convenient, more workable, and things like that. And so in turn, that aligns with carbon engineering's values because they are making, you and your team are making that technology available to change the world and to make the world a healthier place. And in that way, this is the ideal investor that we have created. So now I will pass it on to Genevieve to talk about the recommendation.
Thank you, Catherine. So, climate change is a big issue. Catherine has said it, Jacqueline has said it, everyone is saying it. And unfortunately, we only have 12 years to combat this, or until it becomes irreversible. So, what are you, as CE, going to do? You have the technology and you have the ability to make a huge impact, not in Canada, not in America, but in the entire world. And so our marketing plan is called Creating a Climate of Change. So in this way, we're going to be increasing awareness of your DAC technology by attracting investors that have the same long-term goals as not only carbon engineering, but also the UN, as well as their own companies. Those values really need to align. And that will work to promote commercialization in the long term. So how are we going to do this? So we're going to do this in 3 ways, and it is a 3-step process. The first is to gather investors. You currently don't have the finances to finish your first plant. And in order to do that, you need to have the money. And once you do that, you'll be able to move on to the next step, which is raising awareness. So in raising awareness, this is when you want to increase your public as well as political awareness to these issues. The public doesn't know that this technology exists. It seems too good to be true. If they knew that there was a solution to climate change, it should be all over the news, in my opinion. And so we want to be generating thought-provoking campaigns that will really get people educated, and which will then help us move on to the next step, which is franchising the business, and it is part of your business model. So in doing this, with the public support, you will be generating, companies will be generating interest in what you do in your technology, which will hopefully franchise everything for the world. So going more in depth into how we're going to be gathering investors with our first issue of lack of finances, your carbon engineering leadership team, as well as your account managers and people that have the connections in the industry, should be talking to these companies that really want to make a difference, that align with your values. So you want to sit down and talk to them face to face and really show what benefits they can get from this technology. And the benefits are that you are at the forefront of this market. In fact, you're not at the forefront. You created this market. It didn't exist before you. You didn't innovate it, you invented it. And therefore, you have to tell people that this is why they should invest, because this is something new and this is going to work and it's real. So, our market insight is that the key feature is to use the benefits of being a market leader as well as your long-term cost savings in terms of. So for issues 2 and 3, which is the awareness and barriers of adoption, we plan, so unfortunately it takes 4 years to fully complete your large-scale plant. And you can't wait 4 years to market your plant. You have to start right now. And so our plan is for the next 2 years to focus on your pilot plant in Squamish, because it is there, it is working, and it is proof that this technology works. So essentially what we want to do is we want to target 4 different ways of getting awareness. And the first is through social media. This will be just getting public awareness as well as environmentalists. This technology caters to a very niche market, which is people that are very passionate about the environment. So a regular person who doesn't really care or fails to think that climate change exists wouldn't really care. But there are those people that feel so strongly and really want to know that these things exist and spread the word. They'll tell their friends. And that's where social media comes in, through educational videos, and using Facebook and Instagram to really share your message. The next is through conferences and events. This is going to really target your political leaders and your governments and your policymakers, because they're the people that attend these events and really want to know how they can really implement these technologies in their governments. The next is urban centers. As we said, we want to focus on transportation as the first market, and in doing so, urban centers are a great place for consumers to understand how this fuel can really impact their lives. So not only will they realize how easy it is to use because you can use it in any vehicle, but they'll realize that it's there and accessible. And lastly, we have co-marketing, which is with the partners that you already have as well as new ones, hopefully with new oil and gas company partnerships, you'll be able to drive attention and market share. So since this plan is only for the first 2 years, we need to focus on our long-term plan. So we want to make carbon engineering stay at the forefront of this industry. We want you guys to not only be at the forefront, but also show and give industries that need this technology the ability to use it. The second way that we're going to do this is to tap into horizontal markets. So this means that all of those people that are reliant on carbon dioxide, so like have been mentioned, the concrete, farming, agriculture, those industries would really benefit from the CO2 in the atmosphere. And now I'm going to move it on to Catherine, who will talk about the timeline.
So this is the timeline of what it would look like for those first 2 years that we talked about with the marketing plan. We would suggest that you and your team will reach out to investors as soon as possible and get that first investment round completed. And then, only then can you begin the Create a Climate of Change campaign, begin marketing, begin allocating funds towards the social media marketing, and going to conferences and whatnot. And moving forward, you would then contact businesses for franchising opportunities, and then franchise your technologies and tap into carbon dioxide industries after that has been established. So these are the risks that we devised. There is a possibility of a low rate of investors, not enough awareness generated, as well as an unsuccessful scaling. But the ways that we've decided to mitigate that is it possible for you and your team to reevaluate the industry targets, increase marketing efforts and become more aggressive, as well as analyzing plant performance. So to summarize, carbon engineering is the future. Direct air capture technology is the future. You have proven that this technology works, you've developed it for years, you are the market leader, and this is the way that the world should be going. This is the technology that is a necessity and that is and will combat climate change. And in that way, what you've done now is develop this. So your next step would be to create awareness, create a community of change makers who are on board with this mission, who are on board with your values, and in turn, this way you can engineer a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you all. Fantastic presentation. You nailed lots of things, including our ideal profile investor. In fact, I have to fly to New York tomorrow to talk to 70 John Saturns. In terms of, you mentioned social media, and I think you mentioned Instagram and Facebook. How can we do a better job of using social media to target specifically this age and this demographic of investor?
So with Instagram, you guys don't currently have an Instagram, and I think that that's a really big way that you can reach the young people. Everyone's on Instagram, and everyone's looking for, like everyone follows Greta on Instagram, and everything that she posts, people know about. And so if you get people like her, environmentalists, people that are really passionate about it, and especially like with your educational videos that you already have currently, they're like, we really enjoyed them, and we were like, wow, like I feel like if it was shared more and there was more of a presence on every platform, that people would be really interested and really follow you, because what you're doing is pretty cool.
Hold on. Question for you on the awareness portion for drug publicity. What about PR? Is that part of the strategy, or do you just like go on those?
So one of the ways that we were hoping to get PR out was through the Squamish pilot plant. So we were hoping to have news coverage and things where those outlets can come and actually visit the plant in Squamish and be able to share what they're seeing, so that there's more of like a real life connection with, like, it's not just what you see on the screen, but it's actually, we visited, we had a tour, we know how it works, and we've met the people that are creating the technology. So that's the plan.
And then the franchise model, I was a bit confused. Could you explain that to me one more time, please?
So the franchise model is supposed to work in a way that what we assumed was essentially you would have large companies buy into the ability to use carbon engineering's technology, and then they would be able to gain profits from like selling the fuel or using that fuel for their uses.
Thanks, great job. I want to talk about John Saturn as well. So what is John going to do with our product? What are we going to sell?
So as of right now, we're at the understanding that carbon dioxide, for example, is a commodity that is growing, and it is something that should be used as a commodity and commercialized as well. So being able to tell a possible potential investor that if you invest in our technology, we can provide and harvest the carbon dioxide necessary and store it as well in order to commercialize that carbon dioxide in the future, as well as invest in the company to overall remove carbon emissions from the air and create a healthy environment.
So right now, John might be paying $25 to $50 per ton of CO2, and carbon engineering doesn't think that it can get its price below $100. So what marketing strategies could you do to increase John's willingness to pay for that pure commodity that's right now much cheaper?
So one of the main marketing drivers that we're trying to use is really getting people to know about the product. One of the examples that we used was entering the transportation industry. So people would actually have the ability to purchase fuel for their car using the DAC, the direct air capture, and then combining that with the carbon engineering air to fuels, which is able to create the low carbon fuels that you could use in daily transportation, whether that's a plane or a train or even your own vehicle. So the goal around that and the benefit, I think, of using CE's technology is that it actually sells for the same price when you use it through that revenue stream.
Okay. And for the drivers who really care about their carbon footprint, do they already own a Tesla or a Leaf or something? And are you going to have someone, pull up in their F-150 and fill up on the direct air fuel?
Yeah, so currently there's 1 billion cars in the world, and the average Tesla costs around $30,000. So it'd be approximately $1 trillion for the entire world to convert to electric vehicles, which we just don't think is feasible. So rather than trying to create brand new sort of revenue streams and brand new vehicles, we might as well take the CO2 that we've already created and basically repurpose it and create a beautiful cycle so that we can finally get to net zero and then eventually negative impacts.
Does John Saturn have any kids?
He could, yes.
Yeah. If he had kids, would you recommend reaching out to them as well, or just focus on John?
We think that obviously the younger generation is a really key component. They're the ones that are going to be living on the planet when the older generation is gone. And I think that John, being the well-rounded guy that he is, he seems to be a family man to me. I think he wants his kids' opinion and this sort of thing, and I think he's trying to do what's best for the environment long term.
Any risks to going public too soon with carbon engineering story?
Well, because there are currently competitors in the market and the possibility of competitors entering the market in the future as well, I believe it's important that carbon engineering should be at the forefront and commercializing and spreading awareness and marketing themselves as soon as they can, because as of right now, they are the market leader. You guys are the market leader.